have these suits on that have these carvings of technology all over their bodies, and they're holding a weapon in one hand, and the other hand they're holding an Anunnaki handbag. But there's also this concrete doorway. It looks like a doorway, but then it ends. You know, they have these all around the world, and it has a little notch in it. And these are these Stargate doorways that you walk into with the right frequency, and you put this thing on that notch, and you walk through the wall, and you walk into another world or wherever it goes to the other end. How to open a Stargate portal. They were talking about this stone called a K2 megalith. So the K2 megalith is a massive crystal about this big, and it's underneath one of the tunnels in Bosnia leading up to the Pyramid of the Sun. Now, the Pyramid of the Sun is a gigantic pyramid in Bosnia. This is in Europe. This pyramid is larger than the Great Pyramid at Giza. Now, this pyramid was purposefully covered with trees and roots and grass and everything else to hide it from the world. And the capstone is still on it, though. The thing about it is it's still kind of an active, portal. So that's what they were saying, like this would be the perfect place to make a test because it's private property, it's independently owned, and the majority of the pyramid is still functional. Now this K2 megalith crystal that was in there, it had writing on it. I don't know if you heard that part. The writing said, "We must stand in defense." Okay, we must stand and fight, basically, they're saying, until we can open this portal. So there was a war going on. That dates back to the Pyramid War, the last Pyramid War that decimated Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, that decimated the entire Giza Plateau and turned it into a desert. That war was the last war that Amun-Ra, aka Marduk, was involved in. And so there must have been some fight back going on, and they were trying to get into this portal to escape. And somebody carved into that crystal, I guess while they were waiting there and defending, whoever was guarding the area, that this is what's going on. We might not make it. Like, we're fighting right now. We're in a major battle, and we can't get this portal open. For whatever reason, they couldn't get it open. So that's more evidence than ever to me that there's Stargate portals that really truly do exist, and they had the capability to get. Maybe they couldn't get into them because maybe they didn't have their jet pillar ankhs on them. That's the key to getting in. Yeah, when I went to, where was I? I was in part of Mexico. I went to Teotihuacan, but I went somewhere else. I went to Tula, Mexico. And in Tula, Mexico, there is a pyramid of Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan there. It's one of his own, it's actually named after him. It was one that he orchestrated to have built. It's not that massive, but it's pretty decent size. And in the back of the pyramid, there's a ball court, like you see, the Mayan ball court and all that. But there's also this concrete doorway. It looks like a doorway, but then it ends. They have these all around the world. And it has a little notch in it. And these are these Stargate doorways that you walk into with the right frequency, and you put this thing on that notch, and you walk through the wall, and you walk into another world or wherever it goes to the other end. They say that when he used to come there, he used to battle with people that were coming to take over the area and things like that. He would defeat these enemies, and then he would go back into this door. So there's a picture of me standing in the door, like I'm getting ready to, vanish or whatever. I stood in the door, the same door where he would go, Thoth himself would stand into, go into another portal, or go into another dimension, or go into another planet, wherever it led to. So he would disappear and reappear from that doorway. Amazing stuff. And at the top of this pyramid are these gigantic Toltecs. They have these suits on that have these carvings of technology all over their bodies, and they're holding a weapon in one hand, and the other hand they're holding an Anunnaki handbag. Okay, just amazing stuff. So I don't know if you know about that. Anybody here know about the Anunnaki handbag? Yeah, amazing. So these Anunnaki, these Sumerians, they have these, every single one, no matter where you look around the world, everywhere, on every continent, you always see them holding this bag. Okay, and I did a documentary on this bag a couple years ago. The bag, I was watching an Apollo 11 documentary, and it was actually the Mercury mission before Apollo launched. They would go do all these test flights, and the astronauts came out, they got in a little bus, they had a life support bag in their hand and their spacesuits on. I was like, that's interesting. Then they got into this little bus and they went to the rocket tower, launch tower. They got out of the launch tower and then they went up the elevator and they got inside the capsule with the life support bag, and they were laid down in the same exact position as Lord Pakal, which is that famous stone that has this really etched into this stone found in Mexico, where he's inside of this capsule that launching into space. And he's got the bag, he's got his hands and feet on pedals and everything else. And it was just threw me back, and I said, wow, I think that these Anunnaki are walking around with life support bags. I think inside these bags could be potentially, I'm not saying guaranteed that it is, but it could be that they're these are some type of bags that maybe aid them in breathing on this planet. It's the reason why every single time you see them, they have to have this bag. It's not like it's here, sometimes it's not. They have the bag at all times. If they don't have it in their hand, it's on there. It's like etched into the stone on their their body, on their suits or whatever.
They can't breathe in this atmosphere.
I think they can breathe in the atmosphere, but when you first go on a planet that's new, like if we landed on Mars, a lot of people don't realize Mars has oxygen. Mars has a very limited amount of oxygen, but it does have oxygen, it does have barometric pressure, it does have all the conditions and all the gases needed to breathe and inhale. It's just that the atmosphere is so weak, the pressure so low, anything above probably 8 to 10 feet will be very difficult to breathe in. But breathing from 8 feet and below is probably like being about 17 feet above sea level here on Earth. But the Tibetan monks breathe just fine up there, don't they? They do some incredible things at that level with that limited amount of oxygen. So it's a breathable atmosphere there. Now, if we went there, we'd have to wear a mask and have some kind of oxygen sac or something on us to give us a minute to catch up, acclimate ourselves to that altitude type level of breathing. I've been researching Mars for a very long time. My team is the United Family of Anomaly Hunters, and we made international news several times already. And we've now downloaded well over 1 million images from NASA, the European Space Agency, the Russian Space Agency, China, and the Indian Space Agency. We've documented over 58,000 anomalies now that are existing in our solar system, and the majority of those 58,000 are on Mars. Anomalies, out-of-place objects, things that shouldn't be there, like things that look like people looking at the camera. Well, according to when you read the tablets, it seems like they didn't have as bright as the sun as we had, because I think they orbit a brown dwarf star. So one of the first things that happened with Alalu when he came out of his capsule, he was like, oh my God, it's too bright here, and he put on his goggles. So he put on his goggles right away, the sun was really bright here. So I think that they have a lot more dim lighting, because they probably do orbit a brown dwarf star, which we've discovered this brown dwarf star. It's orbiting our sun every 4,200 years. It's now mainstream news.
There's another star that orbits the sun, not just a planet.
Yeah, it's a star. It's a star with planets orbiting it. It's got 6 satellites or 6 planets orbiting it. It's now mainstream, history now. It's actually going into history books. We live in a binary solar system. We have 2 suns. We have our yellow, bright sun, and then we have a second sun, which is very far away. It's just outside the orbit of Pluto, but it's there, and it orbits our sun every 4,200 years. In 2-mass infrared mode, you go to the constellation of Leo, and you start zooming in. It's amazing. It's aligned with Leo, the Sphinx, and you start to see this brown dwarf out there with planets orbiting it in our solar system. Amazing stuff. So it used to be blacked out on Google. So you would go to the same coordinates on Google Sky, and they had this gigantic big black patch over it, so you couldn't see what was there. Yeah, they only took that patch off about a year ago. So yeah, so through the Freedom of Information Act, we got the black box tapes from Apollo 11 and the black box redacted printed documents as well. So I wanted to do a complete write-up on the moon mission, and did we go to the moon and why and everything else. Because why? Because there's a Sphinx and a pyramid on the moon. And the Sphinx is identical to the one at the Giza Plateau in Egypt. Identical. The dimensions, the shape, the way the wall is built around it and everything else. It's kind of a little dilapidated, but it's there and you can make it out. And there's more than one pyramid on the moon as well. That's what I'm saying. Wow, what is the pyramid doing? So I started researching the moon. Did we really go? Did we not go? And what I came to the conclusion was, yes, we went to the moon, and yes, we lied about it. So we sent up several missions to the moon. We sent up one called the Clementine mission. which went on a low lunar orbit, okay? And when it went around the moon to the backside, it supposedly crashed and didn't come back. But they knew it wasn't gonna come back because they named it Clementine. Oh, my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever. You know that song? As soon as I saw the name Clementine, I said, okay, what's the catch here? So they sent back almost 30,000 or so images, HD, and I analyzed those images. Me and my team, we came up with a lot of anomalies that will blow your mind. Yeah, Saturn is an amazing place. You know, there's a book by Norman Bergeron named The Rings of Saturn, I believe is the name of the book, The Rings of Saturn. It's a book that he did, which, you know, he was the head of Ames Research Institute. This is one of the top aerospace companies, you know, at the time in the world. His resume is so big, it can stretch out this door and down the street. You know, he's a scientist, physicist, everything else. And he wrote the book because he had access to space data images that were showing that the rings of Saturn had structures on them, some of those rings. And he also showed in his images in the book how they were being built, because they actually showed like things like it appeared to be, not that he's saying it was, but it appeared to be, and I gotta admit it, when you read this book, it's amazing, these official images, space images, like construction on the rings. So the first thing with the frequency of Saturn, we have the sound frequencies of every planet in this entire solar system now. And I downloaded all those sound frequencies. I downloaded the one from Saturn and the moon Titan. What's interesting is when you start listening to it, at first it just sounds like a bunch of, you know. But in the one that was coming from Titan and Saturn, you start to seem like it's conversation. So I took it and I sped it up and I said, no. Then I slowed it down. That's when I said, oh my God, this is communication. There's something on that frequency that's actually a communication. So there could be some truth to that. It's actually going to be in my next, in Contact in the Desert. That's one of the videos that's in my slide that I'm showing. The software I use to slow down the audio from Saturn and Titan and let everybody hear what it sounds like, which is, I think people are going to be blown away because it sounds like people are having a conversation. So, or maybe some type of a communication, or maybe they're transmitting information that we pick up and alters our thought waves. There's so many ways to do that. I mean, technology right now, we can literally alter. I can have every single one in this room hear a sound in their head, and you'll think it's God. All I have to do is transmit a piggyback frequency to your cell phone. And on that frequency, on your cell phone, it'll be, a communication, an actual voice. They've done this before. There's many experiments about this. They can even transmit directly from towers in different neighborhoods and send frequencies out to different areas and make you feel things, hear things, become emotionally distraught. All this technology actually exists and has been tested on animals for quite some time now, probably 30, 40 years, not even anything new. So that's possible. Now with the moon, what's very interesting is the moon appears to be an artificial body. It's a real thing that's up there. Now there's a lot of structures on the moon, because I've now found them myself. How I found them was I decided, forget all these images that could be faked and obfuscated and changed, all these new ones. Let me go to the oldest footage I can get. So I went and got one of the original VHS copies of the lunar module returning back to the command module in space, coming from the lunar surface. There's no Photoshop, there's no CGI back then. This stuff doesn't exist. So now let me pull this video down into my software and let me turn the contrast down, because the surface of the moon is so bright. That's why you can't see stars. People, you can't see stars. Well, you can't see stars. You don't understand photography and videography. You don't understand how light works and reflectiveness works. You're not going to see stars when you have a sun leaving off the surface of something that has that much helium-3. But anyway, so I turned the contrast down, and right away, what do you see? Domes. So many domes, I couldn't even count them all. One of them was the most famous dome structure ever discovered by me. It made TV. It went on. It's actually on Beyond Belief with George Norrie on Gaia as well. It's actually on that show. It made the news a few times. It's a dome structure that has buildings that are about 1 mile high. We don't have that kind of construction technique down here on Earth right now. The amazing thing about it was another one of my team members, Chris Maroney, who runs a YouTube channel called Mars Anomalies. He went to the USGS.gov radar scan of the moon, and he looked at the radar imagery, and that penetrates the surface by about 30 meters. And right away, it's amazing footage. You see structures, what look like gigantic steel beams underneath the moon's surface on official USGS.gov data feed. What in the world is going on? So when you're going back, oh wait, the moon rang like a bell. This moon probably is hollow. Whether they hollowed it out or they built it that way, nobody knows. But there is an account of the Anunnaki going to the moon, and that helmet, that time when you see them wearing that fish, or they look like they have that fish, bird head, because sometimes they have a human head, sometimes they have a bird head. The bird head is a helmet. So they say, get the eagle's mask, and they would put on the eagle's mask, which they would say that the atmosphere on Mars, or they would be talking about the moon, is very bad. So they would put on the eagle's mask. So when you see them depicted with having that bird head, that's because they're putting on a helmet. That's their space helmet. And it could be that they're taking, these people were witness every time they were getting in these ships with these bags. It could be that it wasn't for Earth. It could be that those bags were just getting in ships and taking off. But either way, there was even an account in the tablets where one sect or one relative was fighting against the other. And this is one group of relatives that had done something so horrible that they were banished to go live on the moon. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, to get back to your original question, was the Apollo 11 black box tape. One of the astronauts says that he's looking at a convex crater. And a conical crater, a conical crater is what he said, conical. So a conical crater means you're looking at a dome type of a structure. And then Neil goes, wow, look down there. I bet the people down there never get out.
Well, there must be nothing more desolate than to be inside some of these wall craters, these conical ones.
People that live in here probably never get out.
Yeah, that's right.
Why would he say something like that? I mean, everything is recorded on there. Even if you sneeze, that's recorded. So he actually said the people on it. Now, Apollo 10 flew around the backside of the moon. And a lot of people don't know that this is really a famous thing that happened back then. Something connected to all their comms. And in the comms, they heard singing and music coming from the backside of the moon. Now, when you go to the backside of the moon, you're completely disconnected from Earth. You have no communication. Houston's cut off. It takes about an hour, I think, to get back into radio range. But while they got to the backside, something connected to their comms on their comm frequency and was playing music. And the tapes, which are available to everybody, oh my God, can you hear that? That's music. What is music doing playing in our comms? Oh my, they just kept saying, oh, they were so blown away that there was music coming in, some type of a weird music, but they identified it as music.
You want some more brownies?
No.
First, they're so hungry.
That music even sounds outer spacey, doesn't it? You hear that? That whistling sound?
Yeah.
Woo! Look at your... Yeah, it sounds like, outer space type music.
But yeah, what I'm saying, wasn't that? But it was, they kind of reckoned it to, what do you say? It was like almost like classical. And they mentioned it over a dozen times. So it was every single astronaut that was in that capsule. So it really did happen. And whatever it was, knew how to tap into their comm frequency, which is pretty amazing. And, so that was pretty crazy stuff. Matter of fact, when the Apollo 11 was going to the moon, which is a three-day flight to get there, Buzz Aldrin, and this is one of the documentaries I did called Docuphobia, he's interviewed and he's saying that there was something flying alongside of them on the way to the moon. And they start having a communication about it, but then they stop themselves because they don't want the mission to get canceled because they've been waiting their whole life for this one moment. So they stop talking about it in that way, and then they contact Houston and say, Houston, where is the rocket booster? Because they're trying to see if it's the rocket booster or if they can give Houston a hint that there's something outside our window. And they would say, wow, but we see something outside of our window. And then Houston radios back and says, that's been a jettison and it's already, in the atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, so Buzz said we decided not to talk about it anymore because we didn't want them to cancel the mission and send us back home. When they got to the moon, The next thing there's another tape out. Okay, anybody can download this tape. It's official footage. Buzz goes, oh my God, they just landed across the crater and they're watching us. Then Norman Bergman, who's in an interview with Project Camelot, that's the guy at the head of Ames Research, who was sitting there in the top secret room watching the actual landing, like, live. He's looking at some of the images and stuff like that, and he's noticing that there's 9-foot tall black people getting out of a ship across the crater, just like Buzz said. This backs up Buzz's thing. Now, the lady goes, black people, goes, yeah, black people. Now, he didn't say that it was black like we're Africans. He said they were black, like really black. That was he was adamant about it. Now, it could be that they've been wearing a full suit of blackness, or it could have been that they were, I don't know if you're going to be on the moon with your skin out. I seriously doubt that. But he said black people, 7 to 9 foot tall black people got out of this ship and watched us walk on the moon. And this guy is one of the top scientists in the world. I mean, you have access to walking into the top secret rooms at space agencies, and you're running an aerospace company that creates, airspace, F-18s and all this kind of crazy stuff for the military. And now you're saying that this is what you saw. Why would he do it at this time? I mean, the guy's pretty old and he's getting ready to die soon. And he's like, I just want to tell everybody what I saw. This is real stuff going on. That's amazing. So we went to the moon, but we lied about it. We showed the world a partly fake moon. Hollywood acted out, scripted, because they didn't want you to see what was up there. They really went up there, I think, after they sent some of those satellites before the first moon mission and noticed that there were objects up there that were out of place. They wanted to go up there and get some of that and bring it back with them. Because why? Knowledge is power. If I can get my hands on some ancient advanced technology, they already know about the ancient galactic wars and all this. They know about all the technology laying around. How can we get it? How can we reverse engineer it and make it work for us? That's the real key. That's what it's all about. It's always about power and control. If you control space on this planet, around this earth, you control the earth. This is why America is dominant right now. The whole Iraq war, the Gulf War, all these Afghan wars and everything else, are all fought from space. How? Satellite technology and drones. And because we have the capability of doing that, we have so many more satellites up there that are weaponized. The rest of the world has to, basically bend to our command. We have rods from God up there in space right now. A rod from God. This is a satellite that has 20-foot tungsten steel rods in it that don't have any kind of armory on them at all. But they can be dropped pinpoint directly on any city, anywhere on the planet. And the kinetic energy from the dropping E = mc squared of that tungsten rod will decimate that entire city in seconds with no nuclear fallout. When we all say no, that's when it's over. No rioting in the street, no running down the streets, no begging and hoping and wishing and crying on TV, no wars against them, and we have to stack up our weapons to go against the US Army and all this. No. When 30, 40, 50 million people wake up on a Monday morning tomorrow and say, you know what, we're not going to go to work anymore. You know what, we're not going to buy gas today or tomorrow. We're not going to go to the grocery store. We're not going to get on the bus, public bus. We're going to go to the bank and take all of our money out. For those of us who can even get it, because there's only 15% of the cash available at any time. So that will collapse the entire system in a couple of days. Just that alone. Just that small movement right there. That small movement will collapse the entire system in a couple of days. Then you got to negotiate with us. And we're not going to budge until you meet our demands and we install a new economic system that's based off of unconditional love, that's based off of trade and barter, that's backed by real, gold or real silver or something of value, real commodities. And, and we're going to, your level you get in society is going to be based on how good you are at what you do and how much you can help people and those types of things. A totally different type of a system needs to be installed and put in place on this planet. And until we do that, we're not going to get any help from the outside. We got to start inside first. It's always as above, so below. Just like you need to seek the divine internally, we have to seek help internally. We have to recognize and realize that we are our own saviors. We were sent here to save ourselves. That's the biggest mystery of it all. There's no savior coming out of the clouds to save us from this misery that we're in, that we've allowed to happen. We have allowed this to happen. We put ourselves in this situation by being what? Silent and being in collusion. We've followed the rules and obeyed the laws, and we've allowed all this to happen to us. We walked into it with open eyes and let it persist. Every 4 years, people run down to the little voting box and vote for these presidents that are already pre-selected. Every 4 years. And I've been scratching my head since Jimmy Carter. Since Jimmy Carter, I started scratching my head and going, wait a minute. I knew from back then, this is fake. And I said, looking at people running to the voting booth again, another 4 years. I'm going, wow, they fell for it again. Another 4 years, they fell for it again. And every year I keep scratching my head going, they keep falling for this scam. And I knew this as a kid. When I go to the voting booth, I put my name on the ballot. Then I upload it to my website or social media. Just go on my timeline. Every 4 years I vote for myself. I am my own president. I am the president of my own life and my family. And that's the way I see it. I don't care who's in the office and who's, got their agenda or whatever they're doing. I'm going to live the way I'm living because I know how to bend this matrix. Like I said, I like to mix in sometimes other people's perspectives and talks because obviously he's saying a lot of the same things that I say. And you always kind of see the same trend when you start talking about, these mysteries, these principles, and physics, quantum physics. They always go together because they have to. This is the big mystery. The land of Chem is known as the land of the black people. Okay, that's great. But what also do we get out of Chem? We got the words chemistry and alchemy. Okay, that's where the home of chemistry and alchemy originated, was in the land of Chem. And in chemistry, to have a grasp and concept and idea of how chemistry actually works, you have to understand physics and quantum physics, because you have to understand the subatomic before you can understand how some of these compounds are going to work together, interact together. And I think that before they even got to chemistry in terms of using actual elements, it was the chemistry of the mind, the alchemy of consciousness, that you can then step down and say, okay, how can I apply this thought process, this alchemy, into the real world, and then begin to experiment with chemistry and chemicals and so forth, and building compounds. So it's a real amazing thing. So you're going to see that trend. When you dig into this kind of information about mysteries, you're always going to find that you're going to see people mixing quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and spirituality and principles, hermetic principles together, because they all go hand in hand.